In the quiet township of Zigo, there was a girl who stood apart from the rest. Abeni's presence was undeniable, her beauty and grace outshining the other girls in the township, leaving them feeling overshadowed and unseen. Wherever she went, heads turned, whispers followed, and comparisons were inevitable. Abeni's clothes were a testament to her modesty and mystery, high necklines that concealed her collarbones, and skirts and dresses that swept the ground as she walked. She moved like a queen, regal and untouchable, her long, flowing hair cascading down her back. No matter the occasion, Abeni's attire never faltered. She was always impeccably dressed, her figure hidden beneath layers of fabric that seemed to shield her from the world. Elders praised her endlessly, holding her up as the example of virtue and decorum. Mothers scolded their daughters, urging them to emulate Abeni's modesty. But among the younger women, resentment simmered. "She makes us all look bad," one girl muttered, her voice tinged with jealousy. "Who even dresses like that anymore, especially in this heat? It's like she's trying to prove something." Another girl added, "She's hiding something. No one's that perfect." Abeni never paid them any mind. Her days were spent in silence, her steps light and graceful, her expression calm and composed. But Abeni carried a burden none of them could see. Beneath the perfection they envied lay a secret so heavy it kept her awake at night. By day, Abeni was the girl every elder praised, a vision of grace and modesty. But by night, she carried a secret that weighed her heart as heavy as stone. When darkness fell and the township of Zigo settled into sleep, Abeni's true self emerged. One such night, the stars scattered like grains of millet across the sky, she stepped out of her family's homestead. Her shawl was wrapped tightly around her shoulders, her bare feet whispering over the dirt path. The stillness of the night amplified her every movement, her shadow long and deliberate as she made her way to the riverbank. At the edge of the water, Abeni knelt, her chest rising and falling as she cast weary glances at the surrounding bushes. She gripped her shawl tightly, reluctant to let it go. Finally, with a trembling breath, she peeled it back, her movements slow and hesitant. The moonlight revealed the truth. Her chest and arms were veiled in a thick forest of hair, intricate as lace yet uneven. She brushed trembling fingers over her skin, the texture alien and rough to her mind. Her lips quivered as she muttered, "Why must my body be covered with hair as thick as a forest? Who will want to marry me if they find out about this?" The snap of a twig startled her. She froze, her wide eyes scanning the shadows. A bird burst from the underbrush, its wings a flutter of noise. Abeni exhaled sharply, her relief fleeting. She hurriedly pulled the shawl tightly around her again and retreated into the night. The sun rose over Zigo, casting a golden glow over the township. Women chatted as they swept their courtyards, children raced along the paths, and men headed toward the fields. Abeni stepped out of her homestead, her shawl firmly in place, her long hair neatly braided and cascading down her back. In the light of day, Abeni walked among her people like a shadow, seen but never touched. To the elders, she was the daughter every parent dreamed of, quiet, modest, and as graceful as her long hair. But whispers traveled faster than footsteps, and even the perfect shadow cannot hide forever. As Abeni crossed the market square, a group of township girls gathered near the well. Their laughter rose like birdsong, but their eyes followed her. One of the girls, Marka, leaned in toward the others, her voice just loud enough to carry. "She walks like the queen of Zigo, but has anyone ever seen her laugh? Or dance? Maybe she's afraid her shawl will fall." The girls laughed, their tones sharp with jealousy and disdain. Abeni paused, her fingers gripping her shawl tightly. She lowered her gaze and walked on, her steps quickening as the laughter faded behind her. The girls of Zigo envied Abeni's beauty but loathed the constant comparisons. Elders held her up as the example of virtue, urging others to emulate her grace. But to Abeni, their words were chains, binding her to a life of silence and fear. At home, Abeni's mother, Mama Abeni, watched her daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. She approached as Abeni set a pot of water to boil over the fire. "My child, the men are asking. They come to me with questions about you." Abeni stiffened, keeping her back to her mother. She stirred the water with a wooden spoon, her voice barely audible. I am not ready. You are of age, Abeni. They see your beauty, your grace. Why do you keep them waiting? Do you not want a family of your own? Abeni's grip on the spoon tightened. Her voice cracked slightly as she responded. What if they do not like what they see when they know me? Her mother frowned, stepping closer. She placed a hand on Abeni's shoulder, but Abeni shrank away slightly, keeping her face turned. You are my daughter. That is enough. Trust that it will be enough for the right man. But Abeni could not trust, not with the whispers growing louder. Rumors had started to spread, questions about why no man had claimed her hand, about what secrets lay beneath her perfect facade. A group of men gather under a large baobab tree speaking in hushed tones, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. She is too good to be true. There must be something wrong. Maybe she is cursed. A woman that beautiful should not be alone. The men nodded, their voices carrying the weight of unspoken fears and suspicions. One man, Mandler, sat apart from the group, his eyes thoughtful. He stood abruptly, drawing their attention. I will ask for her hand. If there is a secret, I will find it out. Among the whispers and the laughter, one voice rose above the rest. Mandler, the hunter's son, would not be swayed by gossip. He had seen the grace in Abeni's step, the kindness in her eyes. And he was determined to know her truth. Abeni sat by the fire that evening, her shawl still wrapped tightly around her shoulders. In the distance, the sound of a drum signaled the end of the day, but for Abeni, the night brought little rest. Her secret weighed heavy, even as the shadows grew. The evening sky blushed in hues of amber and violet as the sun sank below the horizon. In the quiet of the township, Mandler approached Abeni's homestead, clutching a small bundle of vegetables and a chicken, gifts, a gesture of respect and intent. He was met at the gate by Mama Abeni, who regarded him with measured curiosity. You've come to speak of my daughter. I have, I wish to ask for her hand, but I will do so properly, through her aunt, as tradition demands. Mama Abeni studied him for a moment, then nodded, her expression softening. You are bold, Mandler. But this matter is not just for me to decide. I will summon her aunt tomorrow. That night, Abeni stood by the river, her shawl hanging loosely around her shoulders. The moon cast a soft light over the water, and the sound of crickets filled the air. She was unaware of another presence until she heard the rustle of grass. A woman stepped into the moonlight. It was Auntie Ruby, a tall figure with streaks of silver in her hair and a commanding presence. Her voice was calm but firm. Abeni. You have been avoiding me. Abeni stiffened, clutching her shawl tightly. She looked down, her voice trembling. I did not know you had returned. Auntie Ruby stepped closer, her gaze softening as she studied Abeni. I heard the rumors, child. And I see the fear in your eyes. Do you think you are the only one to carry such a burden? Abeni looked up sharply, confusion and disbelief etched on her face. Auntie Ruby smiled faintly and, without a word, loosened the fabric around her chest. The moonlight revealed what she had hidden. Her chest, too, was covered in fine, dark hair, much like Abeni's. Abeni gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took a step back, shaking her head. No, how? It is not a curse, Abeni. It is a gift. A mark from our ancestors. They have chosen us to bear this, to guard it until the right man comes. The one who will see beyond it. Abeni's tears spilled over as her voice broke. But it has only brought me shame. I cannot bear it. Auntie Ruby placed a hand on Abeni's shoulder, her touch firm but comforting. Shame comes from others' eyes, not your own. This gift is a test, Abeni. And in time, you will see it for what it truly is. Abeni looked down, her tears falling into the river. The water rippled, distorting her reflection, but this time, she did not look away. Her hand brushed over the hair on her chest, and though her expression remained pained, there was a flicker of something else, understanding. In that moment, the weight of Abeni's secret began to shift. It was no lighter, but it was shared, and that made all the difference. The next morning, Auntie Ruby spoke with Mama Abeni and Mandla, giving her blessing. Abeni watched from a distance, her heart heavy with both fear and hope. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, Abeni saw the possibility of walking it, not alone, but with someone willing to share the burden. The township buzzed with muted excitement. Mandla's intentions had become the talk of Zigo, and whispers swirled around Abeni's homestead. Inside, Abeni sat by the fire, her shawl still wrapped tightly around her. Auntie Ruby knelt beside her, braiding Abeni's long hair with deliberate care. "You cannot avoid this forever, child. The right man will not be deterred by what he sees. But he cannot prove himself if you do not give him the chance." Abeni's eyes darted toward her aunt, a mixture of fear and defiance in her gaze. What if he cannot accept it? What if he lives like the others? Then he is not the right one. But you must allow him to decide. The fire crackled, and Abeni's shoulders slumped. She nodded reluctantly, her fingers nervously twisting the edge of her shawl. Later that day, Mandla arrived, dressed in his best attire, his movements purposeful as he entered the homestead. Abeni's parents welcomed him, their faces marked by a blend of hope and apprehension. Abeni sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the floor. "I have come to speak with Abeni." The room fell silent. Abeni's father gestured for her to step outside with Mandla. Her heart pounded as she led him to a shaded corner beneath a large mango tree. They sat on a bench, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. "I have heard the whispers, Abeni. And I have seen how you avoid everyone, even me. But I need to know the truth. What is it you are hiding?" Abeni's breath caught, her hands gripping the edges of her shawl. She hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "If I show you, you might leave." Mandla leaned forward, his voice steady but earnest. "Then let me leave knowing the truth. I came because I see something in you that no rumor can erase. But you must trust me, Abeni." Abeni closed her eyes, her chest rising and falling as she wrestled with her fear. Slowly, her hands moved to the edges of her shawl. She paused, glancing at Mandla, who nodded encouragingly. Abeni pulled the shawl away, revealing her chest. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting soft patterns over the fine, dark hair that covered her skin. Her hands trembled as she waited for his reaction. Mandla studied her, his expression unreadable. He reached out slowly, his fingers brushing against her arm where the hair thinned. His touch was gentle, almost reverent. "This is what you feared. Abeni, this does not change who you are. It is only part of you, and it does not make you less. You are the most beautiful girl I have ever put my eyes on." Abeni's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of disbelief and relief. She looked at him, her voice trembling. You mean that?" Mandla smiled faintly, his gaze steady and warm. "I would not have come this far if I didn't." Mandla spoke with Abeni's parents and Auntie Ruby, confirming his intentions to marry her. Abeni watched from the doorway, a faint smile on her face. For the first time, Abeni felt the weight of her secret begin to lift. Mandla's acceptance was not just a promise of love but a reminder that she was more than her fear. Weeks passed, and the township of Zigo hummed with the preparations for Abeni and Mandla's wedding. The whispers had not entirely faded, but they no longer weighed heavily on Abeni's heart. She walked through the township with her shawl loosely draped over her shoulders, her posture more open, her steps lighter. Abeni's secret was no longer a burden she carried alone. In Mandla's acceptance, she found the strength to begin accepting herself. On the day of the wedding, the homestead was alive with color and song. Women ululated as Abeni stepped out, her long hair braided with delicate beads that glinted in the sunlight. Her dress, simple yet elegant, revealed her arms for the first time. The fine hairs caught the light, but no one dared to comment, silenced by her confidence. Auntie Ruby watched from the crowd, her face glowing with pride. As Abeni passed by, their eyes met, and Auntie Ruby nodded, a silent acknowledgement of how far she had come. The wedding was a joyous affair. Mandla and Abeni exchanged vows beneath the great baobab tree, their hands clasped tightly together. As the crowd cheered, Abeni smiled, a wide, unguarded smile that lit up her face. In the end, it was not her beauty that won their admiration, nor her modesty. It was her courage, the quiet strength of a girl who had learned to see herself through the eyes of love. Months later, Abeni and Mandla sat outside their small home, a gentle breeze rustling the grass around them. In Mandla's arms was their newborn baby, wrapped tightly in a bright patterned cloth. He cradled the infant, his expression a mixture of awe and amusement. "Well, it seems the ancestors have a sense of humor." Abeni laughed, leaning over to stroke the baby's cheek. The child's soft, round face was covered in a fine layer of hair, making it look like a tiny ball of fur. She smiled at Mandla, her voice warm and teasing. "Perhaps it's a reminder to us both to never take life, or ourselves, too seriously." Mandla groaned playfully, shaking his head. "I will need to teach this one humility. Just wait until they can walk, I'll have them herding goats in no time." Abeni laughed again, the sound full and free. In the quiet township of Zigo, whispers turned to songs, and laughter replaced doubt. Abeni's story became a lesson, a reminder that beauty lies not in what we hide, but in the truths we dare to embrace. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing to my channel. Until the next one, let's meet in the comment section.